1. We're checking out this pretty interesting 1979 GMC stepside that just popped up on Craigslist for $7,500. Let me tell you, finding these classic trucks in decent shape is getting harder by the day, and this one's actually got a touching story behind it. It was previously owned by the seller's late father. What we've got here is a clean title V8 with an automatic transmission showing 85,000 miles on the clock. Now, the really impressive part? The seller says it's pretty much rust-free, which is honestly rare for a truck from '79. They just dropped in a fresh battery, added some gas, and boom, fired right up. That's always a good sign when dealing with older vehicles. These stepsides have such a classic, distinctive look that you just don't see anymore. And at $7,500, considering today's crazy classic truck market, it's not a bad deal if everything checks out. The fact that it's a running, rust-free example makes it even more interesting. Just keep in mind, like any 44-year-old truck, you'll want to give it a thorough inspection before pulling the trigger. It's kind of bittersweet. The seller's letting it go because they're moving and don't want to deal with it after their dad's passing. These family history trucks always have that extra special something to them, you know? Let me know what you think about this classic GMC in the comments below. 2. Let me tell you about this absolutely fascinating 1985 Ford F-250 I just came across on Craigslist. This isn't your average beaten-up old truck. We're looking at a seriously well-preserved piece of American automotive history here. First off, we're talking about a single-cab, 4x4 long bed with the 5.0L/302 V8 and AOD automatic transmission. With 153,000 miles on the clock, this truck has lived a life but hasn't been run into the ground. The owner's been really upfront about everything, which I absolutely love to see in the car community. What makes this F-250 special is how incredibly original it is. We're talking 99.9% stock. And get this, all the commonly rusted areas like the cab corners, floorboards, and bed are still factory intact. That's incredibly rare for a truck of this age, especially in the Rust Belt. Now, let's keep it real. There are some issues. The clear coat is peeling and it'll need either a repaint or clear coat reapplication. There's a small rust bubble on the rear passenger wheel well and a minor dent on the front driver quarter panel. The dashboard has some cracks and old CB radio mount holes. But honestly, for a 38-year-old truck, these issues are minimal. The current owner has done some serious maintenance work. New fuel pumps, brake components, BFG KO2 tires, seals, and even a new dashboard. Everything works except the AC, which is pretty impressive for its age. 3. We're looking at something really special, a 1966 Ford F-250 Camper Special that's popped up on Craigslist for $11,750. Let me tell you, finding these old workhorses in good condition is getting harder every year. What we've got here is a genuine piece of American truck history, powered by that robust 352 V8 engine with 129,000 miles on the clock. The sellers kept the original oil bath air cleaner, which is a really nice touch for authenticity. That Wimbledon white paint? It's the same color they used on Mustangs back then. How cool is that? Now let's be real here. At $11,750, you're buying into the booming classic truck market. But what makes this F-250 interesting is its Camper Special designation and those dual front shocks, which were specifically designed for better handling with camper loads. The fact that it comes with 6 original 1966 shop manuals is absolutely fantastic for any DIY enthusiast or collector. The listing mentions it runs strong, and being a manual transmission model, it gives you that authentic vintage truck driving experience. While the seller describes it as being in good condition, we should note that any 57-year-old vehicle will need regular attention and maintenance. As someone who loves these old trucks, I've got to say, this F-250 represents a sweet spot between usability and collectability. It's not so pristine that you'd be afraid to use it, but it's clean enough to draw attention at cars and coffee meets. The price might seem steep to some, but in today's market, finding a running, driving Camper Special from '66 isn't something you see every day. 4. We're looking at a pretty rough 1980 Chevy Silverado that's popped up on Craigslist for $2,800. And I've got to be completely honest with you. This one's definitely seen better days. Let's cut straight to the chase. This is a crashed short bed 4x4 that needs to be towed away. The seller's being upfront about its condition, which I really appreciate. The big selling point here is what's under the hood. It's packing a 454 big block V8, which is definitely the crown jewel of this listing. Now I've got to keep it real with you folks. This truck is basically a project or parts vehicle. The suspension is damaged, it's not drivable, and you'll need a tow truck just to get it home. The odometer shows 100,000 miles, but given the condition, that's probably the least of your concerns right now. At $2,800, what you're really buying here is that 454 engine and whatever salvageable parts you can get off this Silverado. If you're looking for a running driving truck, this ain't it. But if you're a mechanic or someone looking for a big block engine donor vehicle, or maybe planning a serious restoration project, this might be worth checking out. Look, I know some of you are thinking, that's a lot of money for a crashed truck, and you're not wrong. But with the current market for these old Chevys, and especially considering that 454 engine, someone might find value here. Just remember, you're buying a project, not a daily driver, and you'll need deep pockets and serious mechanical skills to bring this one back to life. 5. We're checking out something pretty special. A 1984 Dodge W150 Power Wagon that's just popped up on Craigslist for $6,000. Let me tell you, these old Dodge trucks are getting harder to find, especially in this condition. What we've got here is a short bed 4x4 with the reliable 318 V8 under the hood, and it's got some nice upgrades. The seller's added an Edelbrock carb and intake, plus some sweet finned aluminum valve covers. With just 86,433 miles on the clock, this Power Wagon's barely broken in for these old workhorses. Now let's talk straight. The seller's done some important maintenance work here. We're looking at new brakes, new tires, new battery, and a new alternator. The 4x4 system is working properly with manual locking hubs, which is always something you want to check on these older trucks. The dual exhaust probably gives it that classic muscle truck rumble we all love. At $6,000, you're getting into a piece of American truck history. These W150s were built tough, and this one appears to be in solid original condition. The silver paint gives it that classic 80s look, and being a Power Wagon model adds some extra cool factor. What makes this truck special is its originality and condition. Finding these old Dodges that haven't been beaten to death or modified beyond recognition is getting rare. Plus, with the maintenance already done, you're not walking into a project that'll drain your wallet right away. 6. We're looking at something really unique. A 1967 Ford F350 wrecker that's popped up for $5,000. And let me tell you, this is one interesting piece of automotive history. What we've got here is a genuine old-school tow truck with both a wheel lift and a squirt boom, all powered by a 390 V8 mated to a 4-speed manual transmission. The odometer shows 10,166 miles, though on a truck this age, it's likely rolled over at least once. Now let's talk straight about what makes this truck special. The seller's being really upfront about everything, which I love. The PTO over-hydraulic system is all working. The wheel lift boom, in-out function, and squirt boom are operational, and it comes with the L-arms. That's huge for anyone looking to actually use this as a working truck. The real gem here is the cab condition. Finding a '67 Ford truck with no rust in the cab corners, floors, floor supports, and cab mounts is like finding a needle in a haystack. The seller even mentions having underbody pics to prove it. The 390 V8 is running strong with no smoke, knocks, or leaks, and they've just put in a new starter. Now let's be honest about what it needs. The truck does require new exhaust and tires, but considering what you're getting, a solid running vintage wrecker with working hydraulics and a rust-free cab, $5,000 seems pretty reasonable in today's market. 7. Let me tell you about this absolutely stunning 1965 Ford Ranchero that just popped up on Craigslist. You know, these car-truck hybrids have always held a special place in automotive history, and this particular example really catches the eye. First off, we're looking at a beautifully maintained Ranchero in jet black with a red interior. That's a killer combination that just screams classic American muscle. The seller's got this beauty powered by a 302 V8 paired with a top-loader 4-speed manual transmission, which is pretty much the dream setup for anyone who loves to really drive their classics. What's really impressive here is the attention to practical upgrades. They've recently installed a close-ratio steering box and an I Did It tilt column, which makes this classic much more enjoyable to drive than it was back in '65. The power front disc brake conversion is a huge safety plus. Because let's be honest, those original drum brakes weren't exactly confidence-inspiring by today's standards. The Keystone mags wrapped in BFG tires give it that perfect period-correct stance, and they've even thrown in a new professionally installed sound system for those cruise nights. With 89,461 miles on the clock and a clean title, this Ranchero appears to be in really solid shape. 8. We're looking at a pretty interesting 1956 Ford F100 that's popped up on Craigslist for $11,500. Let me be straight with you. This is one of those honest, survivor-type trucks that tells a real story. This F100 has been with the same owner for over 50 years, which is pretty remarkable. It's powered by the original inline-6 engine, which the seller says runs great, and it's got that classic 3-on-the-tree manual transmission that's reportedly shifting well. These old Ford 6s are known for their reliability and simplicity. They're basically the tortoise of engines, just keep going and going. Now let's be real about the condition. The paint is showing its age with the clear coat peeling off, so it's not going to win any beauty contests in its current state. But here's the important part. The seller states it's a solid truck, which is crucial for these old workhorses. It starts right up, stops well, and you can either drive it as is or turn it into a project. That's your call. The truck's currently on non-op status, and the odometer shows 100,000 miles. At $11,500, considering today's market for classic F100S, this price isn't outrageous for a running driving example with a clean title, especially one that's been with the same owner for so long. These trucks have serious potential, whether you want to keep it original or modify it. 9. We're checking out a 1969 Chevy C10 CST that's caught my attention, and let me tell you why this one's interesting. What we've got here is something pretty special, an unmodified CST Model C10, which is becoming increasingly rare these days. You know how hard it is to find these trucks without a ton of modifications? The seller's asking $17,500, and here's what makes this truck worth talking about. Under the hood, you've got the classic 350 V8 paired with an automatic transmission, a combination that's proven itself time and time again. The CST package was the luxury trim level for these trucks, and this one still has its original radio, seat, and carpet, which is pretty remarkable for a vehicle that's over 50 years old. What really catches my attention is that it comes with factory air conditioning and power steering, features that weren't common on trucks from this era. These amenities make it much more enjoyable to drive in today's world. Now, the seller's description is pretty brief, which means you'll definitely want to do a thorough inspection. We don't have information about the mileage or the current condition of these original components. Also, no mention of rust or mechanical issues, so you'll want to check those areas carefully. At $17,500, considering today's market for original C10s, especially CST models, the price isn't outrageous if everything checks out mechanically. These trucks have seen their values climb significantly in recent years, particularly unmodified examples. 10. Let me tell you about this interesting 1976 GMC K25 I found on Craigslist for $8,500. You know, these square body trucks have really become iconic, and this one's actually pretty solid for its age. Let's be real here. This isn't a perfect show truck, and the seller's totally upfront about that. But for the price point, you're getting a pretty honest K25 with a clean title and 133K miles on the clock. The big 8-cylinder engine is still running strong, and it's got an automatic transmission to make your life easier. What I really like about this one is that it's rust-free. That's huge for a 76. The paint job is decent overall, though it'll need some touch-ups here and there. The interior's holding up well for a 47-year-old truck, which is definitely a plus. Now let's talk about the things that need attention, because transparency is important. The AC needs servicing, the truck bed needs either paint or a bed liner, and there are some dents and blemishes on the right side. But hey, These are all fixable issues that won't break the bank. For $8,500, you're getting a solid running square body K25 that could be either a reliable work truck or a nice project to gradually improve. It's not perfect, but it's honest. And that's what matters in the classic truck world. 11. We're looking at a pretty interesting 1977 Ford F-150 that's popped up on Craigslist for $14,000. Let me tell you, these old Ford trucks have quite a following, and for good reason. This one's got some really appealing features. We're looking at a 351 V8 engine paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, and it's a 4x4 setup. That's a sweet combination right there. The odometer shows just 65,000 miles, which is surprisingly low for a truck of this age. Being a California truck originally is actually a big plus. These trucks typically have less rust issues than their counterparts from other regions. The seller's been honest about the paint having some fading, which is pretty normal for a red truck from the 70s, but hey, that's just character, right? What really catches my attention is that the seller has owned it for 7 years, which usually means they know the truck well, and they're saying it runs great. That's always good to hear with these classics. For $14,000, you're getting a classic F-150 with the desirable 4x4 setup, a manual transmission for that authentic driving experience, and what appears to be a well-maintained example. Sure, the paint isn't perfect, but mechanically it sounds solid. 12. We're looking at something pretty interesting. A 1969 GMC 1500 that's popped up on Craigslist for just $2,600. Let's be completely honest about what we're looking at here. This is definitely what we'd call a project truck, folks. The seller's straight up telling us it's been sitting for a while and needs a little love to get it going again, which in project car language usually means it's not currently running. But hey, for $2,600, what do you expect? The good news is you're getting what appears to be a pretty original survivor with its big V6 engine and 4-speed manual transmission. The odometer shows 114,223 miles, but it's rolled over, so we're looking at actual mileage being north of that. The yellow paint looks to be original, which means it's probably got some wear and patina going on, but that's part of the charm with these old trucks. For the price point, this could be a really interesting project for someone who's willing to put in the work. These 69 GMCs are getting harder to find, especially ones that haven't been completely modified or rusted away. Plus, it's got a clean title, which is always a bonus with older vehicles. Look, at $2,600, you're not getting a ready-to-drive showpiece. You're getting a project that needs some mechanical attention. But if you're handy with tools and love these old GMCs, this could be a really rewarding build. What do you think about this old workhorse, folks? Worth saving? 13. We're checking out a pretty interesting 1978 Chevy K10 short box that's listed for $8,500. Let me tell you, this one's got some serious muscle under the hood. First off, let's talk about that power plant. We're looking at a 350 engine with only 15,000 miles on it, pushing somewhere between 450 horsepower. They've done some serious performance upgrades here. Headers, Flowmaster mufflers, a Lunaticam, and a 2500 stall converter. That's a proper hot rod setup, folks. The seller's been really thorough with maintenance and upgrades. Check this out. New aluminum radiator with dual electric fans, fresh leaf springs all around, new drive shafts, front U-joints and brakes. The interior's gotten lots of love too. New seat foam and cover, fresh carpet, new door panels, and they've even thrown in a modern digital radio. Now let's be honest here. The seller mentions there's some rust, which is pretty common for these old K10s. You'll want to check that out carefully to know what you're dealing with. But with that 49,900 miles showing on the odometer and a clean title, there's a lot to work with here. For $8,500, you're getting a seriously upgraded K10 that's not just some stock survivor. This is a performance-built truck that's had a lot of important mechanical work done. The combination of that built 350 engine and 4WD makes this a really unique find. 14. Let's talk about this 1977 Ford F-250 that's popped up on Craigslist for $3,800. I'm going to be straight with you about this one because transparency matters. This is definitely what we'd call a bare bones listing, folks. The seller's keeping it pretty brief, and they've marked the condition as fair, which usually tells us we're not looking at a pristine example here. What we do know is it's got the 351 Windsor V8, which is actually a solid engine, paired with an automatic transmission in a rear-wheel drive setup. The odometer shows 90,259 miles, but with these old trucks, who knows if that's original? At least they're honest about the basics. It's got a new battery, and most importantly, it starts and runs. That's about all we're getting from the description. For $3,800, you're looking at what's probably a project truck that needs some TLC. The blue paint is likely showing its age, and at this price point, you should expect to find some issues that need addressing. But hey, these old F-250s are tough trucks, and the 351 Windsor is a pretty reliable engine that's easy to work on. This could be a decent starting point for someone who wants to get into classic trucks without breaking the bank, or maybe someone looking for a basic work truck with some vintage charm. Just don't expect a show-ready vehicle at this price point. 15. Let's check out this sweet 1970 GMC K1500 that's listed for $14,300. Let me tell you, these early 70s GMCs are getting harder to find, especially in good running condition. What we've got here is a classic K1500 with the tried and true combination of a 350 engine paired with a 350 automatic transmission. That's a reliable powertrain setup that's easy to maintain and find parts for. The seller's being upfront about the odometer having rolled over from its current 119,321 reading, which is pretty common for these old trucks. Here's what makes this one interesting. They've done some significant recent work. We're talking a new gas tank, new steering wheel, fresh seat upholstery, and new tires. Plus, they've serviced the transmission recently. The power steering and power brakes are definitely nice features to have on these older trucks. The seller emphasizes that it runs and drives excellent, with no smoke from the engine, which is a good sign for a 53-year-old vehicle. The white paint gives it that classic look, and with a clean title, you're not dealing with any paperwork headaches. For $14,300, you're getting a well-maintained classic 4x4 that's had some important updates done. Sure, it's not cheap, but good examples of these early K1500s are becoming increasingly valuable. 16. Let's talk about this 1978 Ford F-250 that's popped up on Craigslist for $3,000. I'm going to be completely straight with you about what we're looking at here. This is definitely a project truck, folks. The sellers listed it in fair condition, and we're dealing with a broken odometer that's stuck at 89,000 miles, so the actual mileage is anyone's guess. But hold on, because there are some interesting positives here. The truck's packing a 400 cubic inch engine, which is actually a pretty stout power plant. The seller's done some meaningful work. There's a new radiator, new gas tank, and most importantly, the transmission was rebuilt just 2 years ago. That's a significant investment right there. It's also got a brake controller, which is handy if you're planning to do any towing. The orange paint, well, it's probably seen better days given the condition rating, but these old Fords have a certain charm, even when they're not perfect. The seller's being honest about why they're selling. They simply don't drive it anymore. For $3,000, you're looking at a work-ready F-250 that's had some important mechanical updates. It's not going to win any beauty contests, but if you're looking for an old-school work truck with some potential, this could be worth checking out. 17. We're looking at a 1979 Chevy El Camino that's listed for $5,000. And let me be completely honest with you about this unique car-truck hybrid. Look, the seller's being pretty upfront here. This El Camino isn't winning any beauty contests right now. They straight up tell us the interior is rough, and the power steering needs some attention. But here's where it gets interesting. Under the hood, you've got the classic 350 V8 engine, and the automatic transmission was rebuilt less than 10,000 miles ago. That's a significant plus. The odometer shows 100,000 miles, and while that's not low mileage, these El Caminos are pretty sturdy vehicles when maintained. The seller mentions it has good bones, which typically means the fundamental structure is solid, and most importantly, it runs and drives. For $5,000, you're getting an El Camino that needs some TLC, especially in the interior department. But remember, these vehicles are becoming increasingly collectible. With a rebuilt transmission and a running 350 V8, You've got a decent foundation for either a restoration project or just a unique daily driver that you can gradually improve. 18. Let's talk about this wild 1979 Chevy Blazer that's up for grabs at $13,500. I've got to be straight with you about what we're looking at here because this is definitely an interesting build. First off, this isn't your average K5 Blazer. We're talking about a serious off-road beast with 1-ton axles, a massive 10-inch lift running on Bilstein shocks, and 38-inch tires. Under the hood, there's a built small block 350, which is a great foundation for power. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. This Blazer's currently not running. The seller's honest about it having a fuel delivery issue, though they've got videos of it running recently. They've done some recent maintenance with a new water pump, thermostat, aluminum radiator, and starter, which is good news. Here's the catch. It's missing the front driveline, apparently loaned to a buddy who never returned it, so you'll need to factor that into your plans. Plus, it needs to be towed from its current location due to the fuel issue. With 69,000 miles showing and a clean California title, this could be a really cool project for the right person. The bones are there. 1-ton axles aren't cheap, and neither is a proper 10-inch lift setup with Bilstein shocks. For $13,500, you're getting a seriously built K5 Blazer that needs some mechanical attention to get back on the trail. It's not a turnkey vehicle right now, but with some wrench time, this could be an absolute monster off-roader. 19. We've got a real treat for you. A 1953 Ford F100 that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This beauty is priced at $28,500, and let me tell you, it's worth every penny. First off, let's talk about the condition of this truck. The seller says it's in excellent shape, and from what I can see, they're not exaggerating. This F100 is a true survivor, with most of its original parts still intact. It's rare to find a truck this old in such great condition, so if you're looking for a piece of automotive history, this is it. Under the hood, you'll find a rebuilt flathead V8 engine that's only got about 8,000 miles on it. That means this truck has plenty of life left in it, and you can enjoy cruising around in it for years to come. Plus, with a 4-speed manual transmission, you'll get to experience driving like they did back in the day. One of the best things about this truck is that it's an Arizona vehicle, which means no rust or rot. The frame is solid, and the truck was originally painted black from the factory. It's been well maintained over the years, with the seller driving it weekly during the spring, summer, and fall. The seller has also made some nice upgrades to the truck, including new bumpers, mirrors, and a recent tune-up. The spark plugs, wires, distributor cap, and rotor are all new, as well as the accelerator linkage and pedal. The shocks have been replaced, and the heater core and hoses are new too. The brakes and wheel cylinders have been updated, and the fuel gauge and sender are new. 20. We've got a real beauty for you. A 1976 Ford F250 that's up for sale on Craigslist. This truck is priced at $12,500, and let me tell you, it's worth every penny. First off, let's talk about the condition of this truck. The seller says it's in excellent shape, and from what I can see, they're not exaggerating. This F250 has been professionally restored, and it shows. The body is straight and clean, and the fresh paint job in a stunning red color is absolutely gorgeous. The paint was done with Sherwin-Williams urethane base coat and clear coat, color sanded to 1500 G, and then buffed and polished to a high shine. It's clear that a lot of time and effort went into making this truck look its best. Under the hood, you'll find a 390 V8 engine that's been tuned up and runs perfectly. With only 87,000 original miles on the odometer, this truck has plenty of life left in it. The 4-speed manual transmission shifts smoothly, and the truck drives, runs, and stops excellently. It's amazing to drive and gets lots of attention wherever it goes. One of the cool things about this truck is that it was purchased new in Nampa, Idaho, and comes with the original owner's manual. The original radio is still in place for looks, but a modern JVC CD radio has been mounted under the dash for a better listening experience. The truck also has almost new General Grabber tires, with only 4,000 miles on them and no dry rot. That means you can take this beauty out on the road with confidence, knowing that you've got good rubber underneath you.